For over 100 years, private foundations have been the gold standard of giving resources for those seeking the maximum impact for their philanthropy efforts. There are also some unparalleled perks like financial control, tax incentives, and setting up your family's legacy. So, if you want to start or contribute to one, how and where do you start? We're going to demystify private foundations here, and it is a conversation well worth your 10 minutes right now on UBS Trending. Hi, everyone, and welcome to UBS Trending. I'm your host, Anthony Pastore. I'm joined today by one of my colleagues here at UBS, Andrea Rothberg, Wealth Planning Specialist. Andrea, good to have you here. Very important topic, I think, for a lot of folks out there. And there are definitely some, as I said in the intro, we want to demystify some things between donor-advised funds, private foundations, the similarities, the differences. So maybe I'll start with you, and let's back it up a little bit, take that 30,000-foot view. What's trending? What's hot right now in the world of philanthropy as we sit here today?
Okay, Anthony, I really think there are two things that people are talking about a lot, right? It used to be people did what they call checkbook charity. Take out your checkbook, write checks all over the place, right? That's really moving to what we're calling now strategic philanthropy or philanthropy for impact. People are really, really looking to be strategic about their gifts so they have a nice big impact. The second thing they're really looking for is, you use the word legacy, right? Families are thinking a lot about family values and family legacy, right? And they're trying to use their philanthropic vehicles to fulfill their family legacy, to say, oh, I would like my family legacy to be environmental impact, right? Our family values surround dealing with homelessness, right? So they really are looking to leave a legacy and a lasting impact with their philanthropy. So it really is impact and legacy.
And intentional. It seems.
Oh, very much so.
Which is really
very
important.
Much so.
And I love the idea, by the way, Andrea, and I'm sure this is something that's changed over the course of the last few generations, is that families are actually sitting down and having conversations about what matters to them, their values, as you explained. A family may have multiple values, or they bring the family together and say, what's important to us? What should we be giving to? What should we be contributing to? That's a really powerful thing.
It is. And one of the things that I've seen happen is, we had one situation where a family called up and was sort of weighing private foundation, donor advised fund, private foundation, donor advised fund. And the father, who was a big real estate owner here in New York, said, I'm selling a building for a considerable amount of money. I have 7 children, right? My family, they won't need to work, right? I hope they do something, but they may not need to work. What I really, really want to do is, I want to have those 7 children and my wife and myself get together as a board of trustees and decide what matters most to us, right? And then establish a family foundation and become full-time philanthropists.
Amazing.
Right? And they were looking to do that. And for them, a private foundation fit in beautifully. They were able to set up the board of trustees, pay their children salaries and expenses and so. And it worked out really well, and it fit with what he was looking to do.
Right. That's exactly the point. It fits with what the family's values are, or the head of the family, or the head of the board of trustees. So let's back it up then, because we talked about donor advised funds, private foundations. I think a lot of folks out there maybe not know that there are some considerable differences between the two. So just if you had to level set it for us, what are the major, say, maybe top 3 or 4 differences between donor advised funds and private foundations? Okay,
so what I really focus on are 3 things, right? 2 of them are elements that are only available in a private foundation, right? The juice has to be worth the squeeze, right? It's the type of thing where only a private foundation will let you do this, right? So those are 2 elements. And the third is a set of skills or qualities that you need for a private foundation. So let's talk first about what things you can do in a private foundation that you can't do in a donor advised fund in exactly that way. So the first one I spoke about already, that family, right? They basically wanted to take their 7 children and hire them and pay them salaries. You can do that in a private foundation. You can certainly have a donor advised fund account and ask your kids, where do you want to give money? But it's not the same as having a board of trustees where you really sit and decide, where do we want this family to go and what do we want our values and legacy to be. So that's number one, really, is you can hire friends and family and pay them. The second one I think is even more important, which is that you can give money to non-501c3 charities. If you put money into a donor advised fund, right, and you send money from the donor advised fund, it can only go to qualified 501c3
So it's a
charities.
little bit more funneled in a way. It's a little more specific.
Right. Now, with a private foundation subject to self-dealing rules, you have a pretty, you have much more control over gifting. You can give money to non-charities, right? We work with this one family. They were a Chicago family. About 8 years ago. And they basically mom and dad started working with homeless in Chicago. And they noticed that often it was hardworking people who just hit a crisis point. Their car broke down, someone got sick, mom had to stay home with a sick child and they didn't have rent money, some crisis point. So basically they started a private foundation, set up an application policy, and started giving microloans in their community. Right, and they would write the checks directly to the people. They qualify and make sure, right, through the foundation. They would write checks directly to these individuals. Now, over 8 years, they gave 600 loans. Wow. Right, and they checked like years later, and 90% of the families were doing fine. Right, so really, that was their values. Right, that they wanted to do something about homelessness, but it was also impact. Right, and they wrote the checks to individuals. You can't write a check out of a donor advised fund to an individual. Right. You just can't.
Because an individual is not a 501c3.
Right, can't do it, right? So I always tell people, start with, do you want to give money to non-charities? And do you want to hire friends and family and pay them? Then the third element is more of a qualification or a skill set, right? And that is a private foundation is an organization that needs to be managed. But you really have to have the skill set, right? And it was odd, in a very short space of time in my work, I got one call from a financial advisor. My client would like a private foundation. And I said, describe her. Well, she's 88 years old. She's not doing well, right? I was like, let's talk about this. I'm not sure. Shortly thereafter, I got a call from another FA with a woman who said, my husband and I are very wealthy. We have no children. I have a passion for people who are food deprived, right? I'm about to quit my job. I'm 48 years old. I was a CFO of a public company. Can I start a private foundation? And you look at that. She's 48. She's got the skill set. She's got the time.
She's got the fire in the belly.
She had the fire in the belly, and that made sense.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to, giving money to non-charities, hiring friends and family and pay them, and can you run this organization?
Right, exactly.
Right.
That's a really important thing to consider when you're getting into something like starting a private foundation of your own, right?
Right.
So Andrea, I know we're almost short on time here. We've only got less than a minute. Just give us a quick 30 seconds on how UBS and how the wealth planning specialists like yourself work with private foundations and donor advised funds and support them.
Right. Okay. So there are a couple of things we do. I am the philanthropy expert on the desk. For anyone who wants to reach out to me, I do tons of calls like this every day. We also have a call-in line. Often we get people on our call-in line who call in and ask about that. But the other thing I wanted to mention vis-a-vis private foundations is through the wonderful people in the Family Office Services Group and also Sarah Solomon's group, right? They've developed a professional network. There's a company on the professional network called Foundation Source. Very nice company, plug and play, and they can come in and we can introduce them to you and your private foundation. They can come in, they can do the administrivia, the tax recording, all sorts of the nitty-gritty things you might not want to do, as well as advise you on more material things.
That's excellent. And I hear you have a one-liner that goes really well with the stories you're telling.
Okay, well, the one-liner I have is, why philanthropy, people say, why is philanthropy so much fun, right? And I said, it grabs you in the heart. Like it grabs people in the heart. You're talking to people about things that matter to them most, right? And in planning, we say there's the heart, then there's the mind, then there's the pocketbook, and you always grab the heart first. And philanthropy really does that.
It feels good to do good.
It does.
Right?
It does. Well, it's also helping people figure out, because they want to make their philanthropic intent, but it's figuring out which way do they go.
Right.
And
how
luckily
we have experts and specialists like yourself and the people here at UBS to guide these families and these foundations through. Andrea,
great.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the work you're doing. Andrea Rothberg, our wealth planning specialist from UBS. And there's a lot of information on our Insights website, ubs.com/views. Plus, you can check out all of our content on social media, particularly our new Instagram channel, UBS Trending. Lots of content, great sound bites, and other information for you to peruse and to get those fires going in your belly. And as always, if you have any questions about your portfolio, make sure to speak with your financial advisor, especially if you are someone who's thinking about private foundations or donor advised funds. Make sure to talk to your FA first, and they can get you in touch with colleagues like Andrea. In the meantime, everybody, thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your day, and remember to keep your eyes on what's trending. We'll see you soon.